Why do they doubt the kid? I'm about to prove them all wrong again. I got a low tolerance, cause they don't even know what the problem is. It's me. You waiting on the boy to fail, to hold your breath and face your death. Cause you play a roulette with each step I progress, no less. Go ahead and place your bets. Cause we know who we at, we know we top tier. Cause all the hate that you bring, we know it stops here. I'm taking off like a rocket here, ain't stopping here. It's strange how they cannot see the future, but see profit here. Wait up, we gon' always win. Tell 'em I can't take no loss. My team hold no L's, no. Aiming for the top, can't make it by myself.
Welcome back. It's Monday. Had a short week last week because of Labor Day. I mean, it felt like the week went like this, like that. I'm snapping my fingers for those of people who aren't listening. I'm snapping my fingers. There it is. Week went like that. And the stories made it go even quicker because they were so intense. So much good stuff to dive into last week, and it was my pleasure to do so. I thoroughly enjoyed everything we did last week, and we are ready for a similar week. I'm telling you right now, we're gonna start with some stuff that you are definitely going to be interested in, 100%. Some of it's hitting the news, some of it's not. I want to start with a story. In 2018, President Trump was engaging in intense talks with North Korea, with UN, over nuclear armament. You may remember that. Got a little tense for a little bit. A lot of stuff on the news. People were talking about it. Water cooler talk, right? It was tense. Now, for years, the U.S. had lamented a lack of listening devices, surveillance, ways to pick up North Korean communication, insight, basically, through espionage and sabotage, insight into what's going on in North Korea. It had been a dearth of intelligence for quite some time, and it had been something they've been trying to rectify. It had been talked about at the highest levels of the Department of Defense. It had been talked about by President Trump. It was something they were considering. And right amidst these talks, Trump greenlit it. Now, I'm going to give you parts of reporting out of the New York Times. This is an amazing article by Dave Phillips and Matthew Cole that we are referencing here. And everybody you hear from now this is 2018, 2019, that's the time period we're talking about. So some time has gone by. Everybody that we are going to quote or source here is under the cover of anonymity, and all of them were in some level a part of Trump's administration or high-level military administration, and they were the people who would know all about this. We're getting it straight from the horse's mouth on this. Okay, so keep that in mind. Now, they had picked SEAL Team 6's Red Squadron for a special mission. This is the squadron that took out Osama bin Laden. High profile. Now, they're used to doing quick strike incursions into Afghanistan and other Middle Eastern regions, in, out, get somebody dead, get somebody out. That's their general deal. This is a little different. They had a plan to get a listening device inside North Korea. So they picked SEAL Team 6's Red Squadron. They gave him a listening device, and they put him on a submarine, and they sent him out to North Korea. Sent him right out to North Korea. Now, there was a number of mistakes made in this mission. A number of mistakes. One, and the first mistake, was that they were comfortable with a lack of surveillance. Normally, in a mission like this, they would send out drones flying high that could get in real tight, not just with video, and watch all enemy movements in real time at headquarters, at command, but they also could listen. That's where the technology is right now. Anybody they have identified via video, they can listen in on conversation and communications. So multiple drones are sent out into the mission area prior to the mission to gain intelligence, information, to send to headquarters. They did away with all that. They said, too risky. No drones. The only information they had was from stealth planes way overhead, and those planes, all they're capable of are quick but still frames frame shots of enemy positions, but it's way up there, not as high res, in close as the drones give them. So all they had was intermittent still photos coming in of the mission area. That's all they had. That was mistake number one. So the sub comes into North Korean territory right up to the shore, and it launches two separate smaller subs with our SEAL Team 6 inside. One of those subs has the listening device. They shoot towards the North Korean coast. Here's mistake number two. One of them went too far. One of them went too far and had to turn around. Now they're saying that was possibly the critical mistake because there was a boat right in the mission area near the shore, right where they were supposed to, get onto land. There was a boat there. They didn't know who it was, what it was. There was a boat. So when the SEAL team rose out of the water and that sub went too far and turned around, they're saying possible mistake number two, they heard the motor because it was too close. And going even further, to eject SEAL team, they had to open these pod doors, these sliding doors on the subs. Those doors make noise and have blinking lights like a bay when the passengers eject. They could have seen the lights, they could have heard the doors, they could have heard the motor. Now, the SEAL team rose up out of the water as the second sub that went too far was going back. They see the boat. A light flashes across their area, and without a single word, the leader of the SEAL team raised his rifle and took out one of the occupants of the boat. There were 3 in total. Within seconds, all 3 were dead. They swam to the boat. And by the way, mistake number 3, when they looked up, they didn't know who was in that boat because they chose the wrong goggles. They chose infrared goggles for this mission. Those fishermen on the boat, and that's who they were, those fishermen, we think, were wearing wetsuits because they were divers. They were all wearing wetsuits. They showed no heat signature. So they didn't actually know if anybody was on the boat or not. They couldn't see him at all. So the light flashes across. The leader takes his shot. One goes down. The other 2 go down. Within seconds, they approach the boat. They find no guns, no armor, no military equipment. They find 3 divers dead. And trigger warning, they puncture the lungs of the divers, the fishermen, and hold their bodies down till they sank. Then they went back to the sub, got picked up, and were gone. Now, were they just fishermen? That is a dubious question because moments after they exfiltrated the area, our planes caught heavy North Korean military mobilization directly to the area they just were. So were they just fishermen? Or were they disguised as fishermen? And their demise, for lack of a better term, triggered some sort of automatic response. Something happened because the North Korean military was mobilized, not a local police force or other fishermen came to see what's going on. The North Korean military immediately mobilized to the area. Now, the meetings went on. In February of 2019, Trump met with Un about denuclearization, and North Korea's nuclear program didn't go great. Directly after that meeting, in February, they fired more missiles. North Korea tested more missiles immediately. Then the news cycle started to pick it up, you remember? And then Trump went over there again and met in the DMZ, and they shook hands, and it was supposed to be this big triumphant moment. But it actually yielded nothing because North Korea ramped up its testing yet again, then ramped up its production of newer intercontinental ballistic missiles that can reach United States territory. And have since that meeting, it is estimated they have created 50 new missiles of this type. Sources close to this story, the people who would know, said Trump greenlit the operation. That's what Trump did. He's the only one who could. And by the way, he and his close military advisors did not notify Congress at all. Not just 24 or 48 hours before the attack. They never notified him. Ever. That's against the law. And when asked about it, because this story is starting to come out a little bit.
Some new reporting on North Korea and this Navy SEAL incident in 2019. Can you say if the administration has engaged with North Korea on that incident since it happened recently?
Yeah.
And then can you share some recollection?
I don't know anything about it, no. I could look, but I know nothing about it.
Can you confirm that it happened?
I don't know anything about it. I'm hearing it now for the first time.
Okay, so many of us hear that. Many of the people in my audience hear that, and they say Don is lying. It's pretty clear Don is lying. I think that most of the people in my audience would trust. It was about a dozen military officials in on this story. About a dozen military officials who had intimate knowledge of this operation. I think the majority of my audience would believe that dozen anonymous sources before they'd believe that liar. That's the reputation. That's what he's bought himself. Our distrust, our deep, deep distrust of everything he says. But even if you support Mr. Trump, how many of you that support him are military? Because now he's directly going against what these military officials are saying happened, dozens of them. He's lying about a mission that he greenlit. He put those soldiers' lives at stake. He screwed up, listened to bad advice, made the wrong decision, didn't get the mission done, put those boys' lives at stake, and on the back end, he's lying about it. I know this isn't enough to make a lot of you peel off. I just want you to think about it. When you file it under things that Trump does and says that I dislike or absolutely hate, but I'm willing to go along with because of whatever overarching need it is you have to vote for this man or support this man or do mental gymnastics to defend this man, just file it under that. Wherever that is for you, that one thing that just won't let you let go. You file it under another one. And for you military crowds, it just continues. It doesn't want to visit a military cemetery because it's raining. Suckers and losers. I like people who don't get captured. Calling his military officials liars. Denying his involvement or even knowledge about a mission that put his SEAL team in lives at risk. Won't even acknowledge that he had a hand in it. Doesn't know anything about it. He greenlit it. So that military crowd, and by the way, to you military crowd, how do you feel about this one? It's not going to be the Department of Defense anymore. It's going to be the Department of War. New executive order. Hegseth's going to be the Secretary of War, and we're not going to have the DOD anymore. We're going to have the Department of War. Now, it sounds like a cute move on its face. President Trump says it's time for a bigly, strongly name. Basically, I'm paraphrasing. Hegseth's all in. All the typical sycophants are in on this. Here's the rub. It's going to cost tens of millions of dollars to get that branding off of Paperhead, stationery, the seal, the Department of Defense seal. It's in thousands of buildings, on the outside of thousands of government buildings all over the country. It's going to cost tens of millions. So don't forget, Grandma's getting kicked out of her nursing home, but they have money to spend on rebranding the Department of War.
It's time for a quick break, then we break some more. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. You're back with Brett Breaks Things, because silence isn't an option.
Okay. All right. Yeah. How do you like that little story for you? And by the way, it's that's also in violation of federal law. He doesn't really have the authority to do that. We'll see if anybody makes a stink about that. But he doesn't have authority to do that. He doesn't have authority to change the Department of Defense. So keep that in mind as you rue over that little story. But the North Korean surveillance, that story is crazy, and I expect that to gain steam. He's out here lying about it now. We'll see what becomes of that, if anything. Okay, so what else is building steam? What else is growing? I'm telling you, I enjoy getting into this Fed story. I enjoy getting into this Lisa Cook story. And the details that are coming out just make me want to go back again and again because it continues to evolve. Now, what's building? What's gaining momentum? DOJ formally investigating Lisa Cook. It's no longer just a referral from the Federal Housing Finance Administration. It is now an investigation out of the DOJ that will most likely yield an indictment. This is all racing. This is all racing. This is all building to this February 16th, 17th meeting at the Fed, where they're going to make decisions about the interest rate. Powell's under pressure. And they're talking about, hey, we can't have Lisa Cook, who's under investigation. And by the way, Lisa Cook, the White House lawyers are right now defending Lisa Cook, the president's decision to fire this woman. They are out here defending the president's right to unilaterally just fire somebody at the Fed, which has never been done before. It's all building to this Fed meeting where the interest rates may be decided on. And Abby Lowell she is earning that retainer. Lisa Cook's lawyer, she has said some really good things in defense of her client. And she does here again. Lowell said of this investigation, this Justice Department, perhaps the most politicized in American history, will do whatever President Trump demands. He wants cover, and they are providing it. The questions over how Governor Cook described her properties from time to time, which we have started to address in the pending case, will continue to do so, are not fraud. But it takes nothing for this DOJ to undertake a new politicized investigation, and they appear to have done it again. Just that again. So don't forget, they're accusing Lisa Cook of owning a home in Michigan. On the loan, it's her primary residence. Then she went and bought a condominium in Atlanta, also marked as her primary residence. That is a violation. She also it is alleged that she rented out that Atlanta property, which is even further violation of a primary residence on your loan. So it's two-pronged. They're also saying that she lied about these things in an ethics inquiry that she responded to while being on the Fed board. So they're coming at her. They're coming at her. Now, I mentioned to you Bill Polt. We've mentioned him a few times. He is at the center of the politicized investigations coming out of the Federal Finance Housing Administration. Bill Polt is the head of it. And these investigations are coming out. Adam Schiff, Letitia James, Lisa Cook. People have been talking about, and I mentioned on the show 2 weeks ago, then again last week, how unusual it is for the head of the FHFA, Bill Polt, to be referring these investigations to the DOJ. It's the IG's job. It's the Inspector General of the FHFA's job to do this. One person, Janelle Bird Chichester, a former chief of staff at the FHFA, said, quote, "It's very bizarre for Polt to be making a criminal referral himself, and it's not coming from the IG's office. If we thought there might be criminal activity, that would go to the IG for review and a determination, and the IG would be making any referral, not the agency." So I said, again and again, I said twice at least, why haven't we heard from John Joe Allen about this? Not a word from the acting IG of the FHFA, the acting inspector general of that department, the one who's supposed to be referring these cases to the DOJ. Why haven't we heard from him? We finally have. Now, we did some digging about him, and we couldn't find anything really scandalous or juicy or incriminating. He did about 3 decades at the DOJ before his position here at IG as the IG of the FHFA. He finally spoke. Your inquiry relates to public statements made by the director of the FHFA. He's saying, Bill said it. Don't come to me. He continues, I recommend that you reach out to the FHFA's media shop. FHFA OIG does not comment on the existence or non-existence of investigations conducted by this office. So he's basically saying, I didn't do it. I didn't say it. You got a problem with it? Go see Bill. That's what Joe John Allen has finally said after all of this. After 3 referrals to the DOJ that are supposed to be made by his office have come from his boss. You got jumped, homie. You got castrated. in front of the whole country. He's not interested in your investigation. He's not interested in your name being anywhere associated with this, John Joe. This is his deal. You've been stepped over. And then when you talked about it, you said, go see Bill. So let's talk about Bill. Let's talk about Bill Pulte. Bill Pulte is the heir to a finance fortune. He is a Nepo baby. 37 years old. He's got 3 million followers on Twitter. How about that? How about that? The head of the FHFA has 3 million Twitter followers. I found that fascinating. Like, what are you going to that feed for? Like, riveting mortgage rate analysis? I don't understand why so many people. Anyway, it was kind of odd to me. So, you want to hear from this guy? You want to see Pulte? You want to hear from this guy? They wanted, CNBC's Andrew Ross Sorkin interviewed him. And he asked some pretty interesting questions. We have just this clip, but he asked some pretty interesting questions of Bill Pulte. He had done his homework, Scott. He knew what he knew what you might want to know from Bill Pulte. He's done his homework on this story. He knew what to ask. And Pulte was a little uncomfortable. He got a little contentious at times. Like many of these entitled billionaires that have been injected into our government, when faced with any type of pushback at all on anything they do or say, they're not used to, it's all yes men around them. It's all yes men in their orbit. Nobody would dare to ask them tough questions about anything ever. So when they get asked these tough questions in front of the nation, they squirm. They squirm. We've seen sycophant after sycophant not quite prepared to defend their ridiculous positions that they are being forced in by this administration on TV, and they squirm. And they get contentious. They fight sometimes. They sweat. They stammer. It shows in so many different ways. So let's talk to Bill Pulte, head of the FHFA, the master, the architect of all of this politicized mortgage fraud garbage.
Speak to this, and I think that there's two ideas that could be held at one time. One is it is very possible that she did something wrong, if not illegal. It is also possible that people will view this as a political weaponization. Can you speak directly to how this came about in terms of going and looking at her work and looking at these mortgages? Who told you to do that? What kind of conversations you've had about that so people can understand the dynamic taking place here?
Our agency discovered it, Andrew, independent of anyone else. That's what we do day in and day out. As I said, we received a tip. We only use public documents in our referrals. We only use public documents in order to determine the fraud. And frankly, people need to stop being so lazy and say, you know what, maybe we should do some hard work and figure out how we root out mortgage fraud, because we can't have another '08 again.
But just to put a fine point on it, this tip came from where?
Well, you have to understand, of course, as part of a federal investigation, I'm not going to explain our sources and methods, where we get tips from, who are whistleblowers. This is exactly why you have whistleblower protections. This is exactly why you don't intimidate people who are your sources, who give you information.
I'm protecting my sources within the FHFA. We've got a very competent spy network within the FHFA doing great work in the underground, the underbelly of mortgage fraud in this country. And I'm not going to put them at danger of these mortgage fraudsters who could be seeking to find their identity and kidnap their daughters. And can't tell you. I can't tell you. Well, that's a problem. It's a problem for Sorkin, and it's a problem for us. Sorkin went on to ask him, but you see, if the tip came from inside, let's say, the Trump administration, I don't know, the FBI or the DOJ, don't you see how that's a little bit of a perception issue? I mean, you want to talk about weaponization if any of that is true. If the DOJ secretly investigated Adam Schiff, Letitia James, and Lisa Cook, then took their findings unofficially over to the FHFA, handed them to Bill Pulte, not John Joe Allen, handed them to Bill Pulte, then Bill Pulte hands them right back for a referral to an investigation. It might be a problem, at least a perception problem, right? You could see there might be a problem there. Polt said, I think we're worried about the wrong thing here. There's an alleged crime. Why aren't you talking about the crime? Why are you coming after the people who are investigating? How dare you? Fist, shake fist. Indignant, turn it around, spin. Some of these people are learning from Trump better than others. Some of these people are picking it up, the little art of the deal that he's bringing to the administration. Get a little more savvy than others. Some stammer, thumper, get all. Polt handled it. Polt handled it. There's more about Polt. Oh, there's so much more. So, we're going to get into Bill Polt a little bit more. We're going to scratching a little bit more. And while I do, I want you to keep in mind us telling you that Tulsi Gabbard has been accused of doing the same thing. And Ken Paxton has been accused of doing the same thing. And Sorkin, by the way, I told you he did his homework. Sorkin said, hey, Bill, Ken Paxton did the exact same thing you're accusing Lisa Cook of doing. When's that investigation coming? He said, quote, if things are made public then or if we decide to make them public, then I will talk about it. You're a sneaky, slimy little guy, aren't you, Bill? Dodge that one. He didn't even bring up Tulsi. All right. So we got Tulsi and we got Ken. There couldn't be any more. Surely there can't be any more. Just wait and see.
We'll be back to break it all down. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. Brett Breaks Things. Fighting for America, one mic drop at a time.
Oh, let's do it. Let's do it. Bill Polt. We're going to dive into Bill Polt. We're going to dive into Bill Polt. But before I do, and we already are, but I mentioned, so we've got Ken Paxton did the same thing. Tulsi Gabbard did the same thing. I do want to mention Bill Polt's parents. Bill Polt's parents, remember, he's the scion of a home finance and building fortune. His parents, in 2020, bought a home in Michigan and then Florida, Boca Raton, right here, right down the street, 15 minutes from where I'm sitting right now. Both primary residences. When's the investigation coming on that one, Bill? Stepfather Mark and mother Julie Polt. And guess what else? You see, there was a little bit of a difference between Letitia and Adam Schiff and Lisa Cook. Adam, 2 residences, primary. Letitia, 2 residences, primary. Lisa, 2 residences, one in Michigan, one in Atlanta, Georgia, a condominium, both primary, plus they accuse her of renting out the Atlanta condominium. Double strike on that. Well, guess what Mark and Julie did? They settled in Florida here and joined the elite Boca crowd and then rented out their home in Michigan. The worst of the worst. Oh, that's the criminal element you should be getting. That's who you should be deeming terrorists. His parents did it. His parents did it. Amazing. Amazing. Immune to irony. Broken moral compass. Lie like a rug. When's that investigation coming, Bill? All right. So we've got Ken Paxton, Tulsi Gabbard, and Bill Polt's parents. We'll call that one entity. On the Democratic side, on the friendly side, we've got Adam Schiff, Letitia James, and Lisa Cook. 3 of those have no pending investigations, and 3 of those do. There couldn't be any more, could there? Well, actually, there could. You see, our Labor Secretary, Lori Chavez DeRemer, our Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, reality TV star, Sean Duffy, and our EPA Director, Lee Zeldin, all have done the exact same thing. That makes 6 on their side, all uninvestigated, and 3 friendlies, all under investigation. Oh, yeah. When you dive into it, it's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing. All of them. For DeRemer, she was the mayor of mayor in Oregon. I'm sorry. I had a problem getting that out for some reason. She was a mayor in Oregon. And then she liked to vacation in Arizona. So she had her house in Oregon, primary residence, and then bought the Arizona property for a retirement home. Made it her primary residence, thinking she would move. But she didn't. She actually ran for an Oregon congressional seat. So she stayed. And she continued to get the rate on the Arizona property as a primary residence. Busted. Duffy, well, they had a home in New York because his wife, Rachel Campos Duffy, worked at Fox News. They were about an hour away from the Fox News studio. Good for them, right? Nice $1.6 million flat there. But then Duffy got his new job, and they bought a home in Washington and labeled it their primary residence. Busted. Busted Sean Duffy. And then there's Lee Zeldin. Very similar situation. Lee Zeldin had a home in Long Island, represented Congress there for years. Then got a promotion, moved to Washington, labeled that primary residence. Busted. You're busted. Now, in that article, I thought it was very interesting. I thought it was interesting, by the way. The article was by ProPublica. It was an amazing article by ProPublica. There were some, professionals in the industry, in the mortgage industry, and people who are familiar with these loans that said, look, a lot of times it's not on the lender, this type of mistake or this type of fraud. See, these lenders go around and they quote these rates that are based on primary mortgage rates. They quote these rates to these prospective lenders trying to lure their business. The lower the rate they can give them, the more likely they are to get their business. And they don't tell the lender, I'm giving you a primary rate, a primary residence rate, even if they already have one. They won't tell them. They'll just do it. It's usually the bank or the official who sets up the loan, the officer who sets up the loan. It's usually not even the person getting the loan, the person getting the house. It's usually not them. So we won't know in the case of the 6 people associated with this administration, 3 cabinet members alone, we won't know because there's no investigation into them. But we will find out with Schiff, Letitia James, and Lisa Cook what exactly took place with their loans. We'll find out. You want to talk about Scott Bessent? You want to talk about, or not Scott Bessent? Well, we're going to talk about Scott Bessent. I got ahead of myself. We're going to continue to talk about Polt. This is delicious. This is wonderful. Now, picture it. Okay, it's the inaugural dinner of a club called the Executive Branch in Georgetown. Okay, it's a hot new club. All the best people were going to be there at this inaugural dinner. All the best people. Lutnick, Duffy, Burgum, Kelly Loeffler, Tulsi Gabbard, Mehmet Oz, David Sachs. Everybody's going to be there. And it's to honor Chugmuth Palihapitiya, a right-wing podcaster, very popular right-wing podcaster. It's to honor him. It's his birthday party. Well, it's around cocktail hour. And Scott Bessent and Bill Polt got into it. Now, it's important to know that these two had been getting into it quite a bit since around May. Okay, there's been like a turf war in the administration between Scott Bessent, Treasury Secretary, and Bill Polt, head of the FHFA. They've been in like an economic turf war. And Bessent, he's been taking slights from Polt. He thinks that Polt's weighing in on economic matters that don't concern him. Plus, Trump might like Polt a little bit more. That might be the real rub here. Trump might like Polt just a little bit more. Plus, Polt is closely connected to Howard Lutnick. Lutnick is basically Trump's best friend. You see how I'm such a catty little bitch, Scott, with this gossip. I'm such a catty little bitch. I don't care. I'm there. I'm there already. No backing out. Yeah, Polt and Lutnick, Howard Lutnick, Mr. If your grandma complains about getting kicked off her health care, then she was the fraudster. Yeah, that Howard Lutnick, that charmer. Yeah, Lutnick and Polt are close friends. So it's been catty in the administration for a while now. For a while. And it turns out that Polt has been in Trump's ear talking ish about Bessent. Well, Bessent and Polt were both at this dinner. And in the cocktail hour, Bessent pulls up the Polt. Okay? He pulls up the Polt and he says, "What the bleep are you talking to the president about me? Bleep you. I'm going to punch you in your bleeping face." Now, Polt was stunned. And the club owner, one Omid Malik, he took it upon himself to separate him. He tried to separate him, right? Tried to split him up, put him in different areas of the club. Well, Bessent went and he complained, and then Bessent went to Malik shortly after and said, "Kick him out. Kick that guy out. Kick Polt out." He said, "It's either me or him." Pardon me. "It's either me or him. You tell me who's getting the bleep out of here. Or we could go outside." And Polt was right there at earshot, and he said, "And do what? Talk?" And Bessent said, "No, I'm going to beat your bleeping ass." Yes. Now, don't forget, this is also the same Bessent who reports had come out that there was, do you remember there was a few pressers where Elon had a black ring around his eye, and people were saying Bessent punched Elon. Well, we couldn't confirm that Bessent actually punched him, but they definitely got in an altercation. Bessent threatened to beat up Elon, and they had to be separated. And that was over, the IRS commissioner pick that Elon forced in. At the time, Elon had a ton of weight to throw around in the administration, so he forced in this IRS commissioner pick, and so Bessent threatened to beat his ass. So I say we get Scott Bessent in a ring with famed amateur pugilist Mark Wayne Mullins, and we find out just who is the toughest, rootin' tootin'est SOB in Trump's administration. Yeah. A Capitol Hill tough man competition. We should get Jim Jordan in there. He was a wrestling coach. Who else could we get in there? Who else? Jim Jordan would make a fine combatant. But there's a bunch of ex-military that's in Congress right now. So you'd have to be careful because some of these guys and gals, they'll kill you. Tulsi will kill your ass. She's seen things. That's why she's got the white streak. That's what she says, right? She's got the white streak because she has seen some stuff. She's got the 1,000-yard stare. We should have a Capitol Hill tough man competition. My number one seed is going to be amateur famed pugilist Mark Wayne Mullins. Well, of course, Hegseth. Yeah, ex-military Hegseth. Of course. Scotty's talking about Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham, I wouldn't want to back Lindsey Graham into a corner. Yeah. He's going to come out scratching and clawing. And I agree with that, Scott. I dare you to do that again, Scott. I dare you to do what you were just doing. Let me compose myself. So, Trump's Fed takeover is marching forward with the help of Mr. Polt. I feel like we've got into Bill Polt a little bit. I feel like you know the man a little bit better now. I find it absolutely stunning that those three cabinet members, plus Paxton, Gabbard, and Polt's parents all have done what they have open investigations on Schiff, Letitia James, and Lisa Cook for. It is absolutely stunning. And I'm kind of shocked that more people aren't pushing this and asking Polt about it. And asking, White House spokespeople or Miss Caroline Leavitt about it. It seems a little shocking. And where is John Joe Allen during all of this? It's your name getting dragged through the mud, dude. You're the one getting stepped over nationally, publicly. But this Fed takeover, man, it marches along.
Breaking politics, breaking narratives, breaking news. But first, we need a coffee break. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things, pushing back, speaking up, and holding the line.
So the Fed takeover continues, full steam ahead. Now, when the Lisa Cook story broke, I explained to you the dynamics at the Fed Governor Board. Now, Trump had previously gotten 2 of his sycophants on the board. 2. Remember, the Governor Board is, the Board of Governors is 7 seats. 7 seats at the Board of Governors, and then 12 federal bank presidents underneath them, and together they make decisions specifically on interest rates. Now, Trump had gotten 2 of his people on there already. 2. Adriana Kugler was stepping down suddenly and unexplainably, decided to step down. Her term as Fed governor is about to run out next year. So, Trump had picked his guy, Stephen Miran, to replace Kugler. But now the race is on, the real race. There's a race going on. Now, the Fed board is going to meet the February 16th and 17th. Okay? Or was it September? I'm sorry. Yeah, September. The Fed board, September 16th, 17th meeting. I'm sorry. I don't know why I said February. Anyway, Fed board's September 16th and 17th meeting is coming up where decisions will be made on the interest rate. He's got 2 of his people there already. Adrian Kugler steps down. Stephen Miran's been picked. Now you've got the Lisa Cook attempted firing, which is being, and it's funny because I'm going to show you now Stephen Miran's questioning in front of the Senate. At the same time this was happening, blocks away, White House lawyers are defending Trump's right to fire Lisa Cook. So the race is on because Trump would much rather have a confirmed Stephen Miran take Lisa Cook's seat, which doesn't run up till 2032. That's a long time, much longer than this seat by Adriana Kugler that's being vacated. So if they can get Lisa Cook legally fired by the time Stephen Miran's ready to take a seat, he can take Lisa's seat and be there forever. And then get their own person right in behind to take Kugler's seat. And if you can get 4, that's a majority. Now you get to pick the 12 Fed presidents. Now you've got complete control over the interest rates, and you have defanged Jerome Powell. You've taken his power away. This power struggle between Trump and Jerome Powell is about to come to a head. And if they can justifiably fire Lisa Cook before Miran's ready to sit down, they're going to get 4 in like that. And you're going to see a completely different Fed. So, Stephen Miran appeared before the Senate. And a number of these people wanted a piece of him, specifically over one issue. You see, Stephen Miran currently sits at the Council of Economic Advisor right now. And he says, I don't plan on leaving my position there while at the same time serving on the Fed. I'm not going to quit. That's the first time in the history of the Fed that anybody, even related in any way to the administration, has not left their seat to come work at the Fed. It's the first time anybody's ever attempted this, and man, he has dug his heels in. He's calm and he's measured. He's a real snake. Like, this dude's real dangerous. You can see it in his eyes. He's intelligent. He handles this well. I know that's not what you wanted to hear. This isn't some train wreck like RFK's hearings. He handles it like a champ. And he tells them, I don't care about your reservations about me holding both positions. I'm going to do it anyway. And so, first up, Elizabeth Warren.
Easy yes or no. Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 presidential election? And the chair is going to be tough on time. I just need a yes or no. Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 presidential election?
Thank you, Senator Warren. Joe Biden was certified by Congress as the president of the United States.
Right. So did Donald Trump lose that election?
As I just said, Joe Biden was certified by
Donald
the
Trump
Congress.
lose that election? Can you say the words Donald Trump lost that election? Are you independent enough to say that?
The Congress certified Joe Biden as president.
All right.
And so they love to open with that, right? Like, let's gauge where this dude's at. Let's gauge where this dude's at. It's twofold, really. One, are you a blind Trumpian sycophant or not? Two, how good are you at doing the gymnastics around this? Are you going to break down and get confrontational right off the bat? Or are you going to handle it like a pro? And he just handles it like a pro. I'm not going to say the thing you want me to say, Elizabeth Warren. He's like a cat. If you cat owners out there, the moment you want your cat to look at you or come to you, or that's when they're like, over here, over there, I hate you, don't touch me. Like, he's like a cat. They're like, look. Did Trump lose the election or not? And he's like, over here. No, focus. Did Trump lose the election? It was the Biden. He was certified. So that's how we're going to open up. So now you know what to expect out of this guy in terms of his ideology, let's just say. Can't say Trump lost the election. He can't just say it. Like many before him involved in this administration, they just won't say it. They simply will not. Ruben Gallegos gets a piece.
The fact that this president, who we know is willing to hold government officials hostage, we just saw what happened with the BLS director, is going to be able to hold that over your head, and we are going to question whether or not you're going to be making the right decisions for this country, not for your personal career. I think that is something that is extremely dangerous to the bond market, extremely dangerous to our economy, and could really lead us into a direction that could make some permanent damage to the reputation of the Federal Reserve.
So, and that's what's at the center of this whole thing. The Fed's reputation, the Fed's independence. A state-run Fed, right? An administration-run Fed. The Fed run by an executive leads to economic disaster, mistrust amongst investors and CEOs and corporations, and of course the American people. They just don't know what to believe. They don't know if the decisions being made by the Fed are the best decisions for their dear leader Trump or for the people. Are they to make the administration look good now in the short term, or to help the American economy in the long term? That's the real issue here, because the Fed often has to make decisions that are unpopular now that turn out to be great for the American economy. But the sitting president now hates that action, because they're not going to be in power when these decisions come to fruition. They're not going to be in power to sit there and point and say, look what my administration did. Look what the Fed did under my leadership. Nope. It'll be years sometimes, decades sometimes, before certain decisions come to fruition. That's why sitting administrations cannot have any power over the Fed. Fed independence is what is truly at stake here. Truly at stake. And these senators get it.
So I don't understand how you don't see why many people are worried about the fact that you're going to go into a temporary position, hold your other position within the White House, and we don't feel like the sword of Damocles is going to be hanging over your head if you don't lower interest rates, right? And so I think it's a very reasonable request that should you be nominated, that you resign as CA director. And should you want to come back later, then you go back to the nomination process.
A gentleman named Mark Spindell, an investment manager who co-wrote the history of Fed independence. He co-wrote the history of Fed independence, said, specifically speaking to what Ruben Gallegos just brought up there, okay, which is if you're sitting in the Fed and you make certain decisions, those decisions could affect your position at the CEA. So we're scared that you're going to protect your ass and make sure that you come back to the administration in good graces should your time at the Fed end. You're going to do what's best for you and Trump, not what's best for the American people. And Mr. Spindell said, quote, "You'd have to recognize that if you do the wrong thing, you could lose your ability to go back to the White House. The president would have leverage over you that he doesn't have over any other Fed governor." Senator Chris Van Hollen spoke to this, quote, "For you to suggest that the president would somehow welcome you back with open arms at the Council of Economic Advisors should you vote in a way that is opposed by the president of the United States is just not credible in any way." Jack Reed, a Democrat out of Rhode Island, called it ridiculous. Now, noted scumbag and Republican Senator Kennedy, yes, that Kennedy out of Louisiana, John Kennedy, said, "I don't see a problem with it." Seemed like a nice guy, called him very intelligent and capable. No fair-minded person could have sat through this hearing today and concluded that he's anything other than an academic and a professional and a Trump sycophant. He didn't add that last part, I did. Yeah, sorry, I should clarify that. Kennedy didn't say that. It continues.
Do you think our economy would be better off with President Trump setting interest rates unilaterally?
Thank you, Senator. I don't believe that's a situation which is currently happening.
But my question is, do you think our economy would be better off if he were able to set interest rates unilaterally, yes or no?
I think the president has had a series of excellent calls on monetary policy over the recent few years. However, I do think that independence of the central bank from political cycle is key to its long-term success in delivering superior economic outcomes.
So if a Fed governor...
Let me stop it right there. He just did what John F. Kennedy did. When he was asked by Cassidy, "Are you going to make it any harder to get vaccines?" He sat in front of Congress, in front of the Senate, said, "No, I will not hinder vaccine availability." That's exactly what Mr. Mirren just did. He was asked by Senator Raphael Warnock out of Georgia. He was asked, "Do you think Trump should be setting interest rates? Do you think Trump personally should be unilaterally setting interest rates?" And he said, "Well, Trump's been pretty right about economics in the past." And Warnock said, be clear. Do you think Trump should set the interest rate?" And he said, "Well, you know, Fed independence is important and it shouldn't be politicized." The first thing he's going to do when he gets to the Fed board is politicize it. It doesn't matter what is said in these hearings. It does not matter. They will just lie to their face. Just like those Supreme Court justice nominees who said, no, I don't see any reason to look at Roe v. Wade again. No, I don't see any reason to bring that up again. Nope, that's standing law. No reason to. And what's the first thing they did? None of these people tell the truth. They will tell you one thing just to get out of there, and they will do whatever the hell they get told to do by Donald Trump, period. And that's exactly what he will do.
I have no legal training, particularly not in constitutional employment law, so that question is not one that I am capable of answering.
Do you think the president should be able to fire someone based solely on a policy disagreement? You've been nominated to serve on the Fed.
Again, I have no means with which to evaluate that claim, lacking any form.
Do you think it's appropriate for the president to threaten to fire them as he's threatened to fire Chair Powell?
Again, it's not my prerogative to have views on such a question.
Well, I think you have opined on such questions. Here's the problem with your answer. Trust in institutions takes years, it takes decades to build. And this political assault on the Fed's independence threatens market stability, reducing investment in our country, costing jobs, and jeopardizing the retirement accounts of millions of Americans.
Yeah. So that second part of Warnock's question is, do you think it's right for Trump to pressure people on the Fed? Do you think it's right for Trump to threaten Jerome Powell's job? Do you think that's right? And he says, it's not my job to have an opinion on any of that. But Warnock asked him, do you think it's right? What do you think? How do you feel about this? What is he, a robot? He doesn't feel anything one way or another? Very slimy. Very slimy. And he will, in fact, do whatever it is that Trump tells him to do, and he's not going to leave his position in the administration to do it. No conflict of interest there. None there. So he had 2 Fed governors before. He's going to get Mirren here, number 3. Depending on how fast he can get Lisa Cook fired, it could be Lisa's seat, and that would leave that 4th vacant seat to fill with whoever he likes. That's 4 out of 7. That's game over.
They'll try to repair the narrative, but Brett Breaks Things will be back tomorrow to break it all down.